I arrived at my parents' house just as the evening sun slipped behind the rooftops, painting the kitchen in muted gold. The smell of something roasted, chicken, perhaps, hung in the air. It was familiar, but not comforting. The familiarity felt like a weight. I had eaten countless dinners here, yet tonight, each chair seemed slightly too close, the table slightly too crowded. My parents chatted quietly, filling gaps with routine observations about work, the neighbor's dog, small updates I neither needed nor wanted. I nodded, smiled when required, and kept my voice minimal. I wasn't absent, but I wasn't present either. Then, mid-bite, my mother mentioned it, casual, light, like commenting on the weather. "She'll be moving in with you next month," she said, glancing at my father. "It'll make things easier for all of us." I froze internally. A small, almost imperceptible chill ran down my spine. Externally, I simply lifted my fork and continued chewing. My mind, however, swirled. I thought about every time I had given up space in my life, shared bedrooms in childhood, apartments I had once rented, rearranging furniture to accommodate siblings' whims, adjusting routines to fit someone else's schedule. All of it had been framed as cooperation, sometimes generosity, but mostly it was expectation, quiet, insistent expectation. I let my parents continue. I allowed the words to hang in the air while I ran through a mental inventory of my autonomy, my choices, my privacy, my quiet control over things they thought they commanded. I said nothing. The silence wasn't passive, it was deliberate. "They'll need somewhere to stay while they get their job sorted," my father added. "And you've always had a big apartment." I nodded again, polite, neutral, perhaps a hint of uncertainty in my eyes, but nothing more. Inside, I felt a small, calm triumph. My parents had no idea. Weeks ago, I had taken steps to reclaim my space, a small apartment, rented quietly, everything arranged to my specifications. I had chosen furniture, set routines, controlled my environment. My life, suddenly and fully, belonged to me again. Memories flitted by. Nights spent tiptoeing around noisy roommates. Moments of irritation when a sibling borrowed things without asking. The quiet despair of losing a sense of home to others' convenience. And now, the knowledge that none of it could touch me here. Dinner continued. My parents spoke of trivial matters, assuming agreement, assuming access, assuming that I had no other plans. I smiled when necessary, listened when polite, and let the conversation circle endlessly. Every time they circled back to my sister's move in, I merely sipped my water and nodded. Their oblivion was total. At some point, my mother began to outline logistics: who would buy what, how the rooms would be arranged, which furniture needed moving. I didn't interrupt, I didn't clarify. They were constructing a reality in which I was a participant, when in fact, I had already withdrawn from that world without confrontation. Later, as I left, I shook my father's hand, hugged my mother briefly. Their smiles were routine, satisfied, unthinking. They believed their plan was intact. The quiet shift had already happened. I walked to my car, each step measured, deliberate. The street was empty, cold air brushing my face. Relief settled in my chest. Calm, unspoken relief. At my apartment, I opened the door and felt the silence embrace me. Everything was arranged as I wanted. Nothing was shared. Nothing was demanded. The sense of control was subtle but complete. The dinner, the expectations, the plans, they existed elsewhere, untouched by my current reality. I poured a glass of water, leaned against the counter, and let my mind wander. I felt a twinge of sadness for the estrangement, for the unspoken rift forming quietly between us. But it was tempered by the satisfaction of autonomy. I didn't need to declare victory. No one needed to see it. The power shift had occurred, not in argument or spectacle, but in quiet, deliberate action. Outside, the city lights blinked on. Inside, I sat alone, boundaries intact, life quietly under my own control. Relief and lingering tension coexisted in equal measure. The dinner had ended. The family had assumed, but I had moved on. And in that silence, I finally felt at home.